Hey there, fellow citizens of the internet. Welcome to the Moses Kabandana Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me, and we're going to be talking about a not so fun topic, yet very necessary a topic of finance. So, without any further ado, Brad, welcome to the Moses Kabandana Podcast.
Moses, thanks so much, man. Greetings from LA. I know you're in the other side of the world right now, Switzerland. So it's been pretty cool to see us connect on Zoom from literally the opposite sides of the planet.
Yeah, yeah. The internet is an amazing thing when it works. Technology is an amazing thing when it works,
When we're
but when
not
it doesn't,
addicted.
yeah, exactly. So Brad, can you give me like a short synopsis of like who you are, where you're from, how did you end up in this financial coach side of business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Johannesburg, South Africa. My parents moved to Florida when I was 4 years old. So I grew up with the immigrant mindset of just live below your means and get acclimated to the culture. And we never really got wrapped up into what is normal in America. And a lot of times I had
Mm.
to go to my parents or my friends' parents for a better understanding of what it is to be an American kid and to grow up. But over the years, through my personal transformation physically, when I was overweight and then I lost a lot of weight, uh, I actually found a lot of interest in reading books and gaining knowledge because that's what worked for me with losing weight. And then it led to a modeling career where I went down to Miami, I went to New York, I went back to South Africa. I had an up and down modeling career. But a lot of my friends that were models, they were booking a lot of the jobs that I wanted to book, but they were blowing all their money. They were getting bottle service every night. They were buying the nice car. They were putting that big campaign paycheck down on a vehicle. Like this is great seed money to invest. What are you doing? And the whole time I wished I was good enough in that career to make that
Mm.
money and then invest because I already had read the books. I knew enough to know that, ooh, this is where it could go and really grow and compound over time. And so I started helping my model and actor friends with their money because they were more successful in their modeling and acting career than I was. But they were not utilizing their money correctly. And so it started
Mm.
organically with just what I would do for myself, how I thought, and then knowing a lot of artists are more right-brained, more on the creative side, and they hate the idea of budgeting or spreadsheets or anything logical. It was a nice little marriage to help them out.
Mm. Where in South Africa?
Johannesburg. So
Johannesburg.
Joanne,
Okay,
that's where I was
okay.
born, but the modeling side
Yeah.
is Cape Town. Cape Town's a very big modeling city. It's a lot like Miami, where a lot of Europeans, a lot of those clients go down to Cape Town in winter and they do their photo shoots. And if they don't go there, a lot of them will go to Miami.
Okay. When was the last time you were in South Africa?
Long time ago. It was
Yeah.
I think 2014. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with this place,
Okay.
but my dad's side is from an island called Mauritius. So
Mm.
Mauritius is a little island off of Madagascar, and no
Okay.
American has ever heard of it. But if you're out there and you're not American, you're European or African, you definitely know Mauritius because it's like no one in the U.S. Has a clue, but a lot of people outside of the U.S. Have heard of Mauritius.
Huh. Okay. I grew up north of South Africa in Mozambique.
Hmm.
So in Maputo, so we shared borders with us, South Africa, and we crossed borders to South Africa to Pretoria and Johannesburg once or twice, long time ago. So what do you remember what your experience was coming to the US for the first time?
I was 4 years old. And so
Yeah,
most of the times
yeah,
when people ask me, where are you from? I said, look, there's the cool answer and then there's the real answer. The cool answer is South
yeah,
Africa. The real answer is Tampa, which is a very
yeah.
normal city in Central Florida. I'm not sure if you've ever been to Tampa, but there's no real reason to go until you're about 60 years old, and then you can golf and fish
Mhm.
and just do the retiree thing. But very few memories. But at the same time, being from a different culture, having those parents and that family, definitely skewed my perspective of of growing up and what it's like to operate in a country in terms of just humility, hard work, living below your means, striving,
Yeah.
growing. And it really contrasted what I see, especially here in LA, where there's a lot of the opposite values being shown.
Mm, yeah, yeah. And kind of like a dumb question, I suppose, but like, what is your earliest recall of living below your means that you feel like you saw and it impacted? Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just and my parents are very conservative. They're I would say, too conservative for their own good because they
Mm,
were conservative with their finances, but also they didn't take many risks, many calculated risks. They were very much like, hey, we're immigrants in this country. Don't mess it up. Just we were lucky to
mm,
get a job. Just make it to retirement. So it's a double-edged sword in a way because I say, well, look, you want to live within your means, but you also want to expand your means. You don't want to just be like, hey,
mm,
I make 35,000 a year and I spend 33,000 so I could save 2,000. Well, what's better is saying, okay, now that $2,000, let me invest in some courses and some training and some certifications and some networking and something to get that 35,000 up to 65. And then let me do that some more to get
yeah.
up to 120. And then a lot of times with when people make a lot more money, they don't spend any differently. It just amplifies their conditioning and their everyday routines. It's just like, okay, I spend I make 100,000 now, and I spend 115,000, and now I make 1 million, and now I spend 1.5 million, and so I think for me it was just okay. Living within your means is good, but the flip side that I had to learn is keep expanding your means. It's if you're not expanding your means, you're falling behind. And so there's so many ways in
Yeah.
2023 where you can, okay, I can rent this extra room on Airbnb. I can Uber on the weekend. I can start a little business. I could start a podcast. I could do things, so many things to expand my means, or I could just get better at the one craft that I have, the one job that I have. I can become a better salesman. I could become a better teacher. I could become a better communicator.
Mm,
I can network. I can join masterminds and get opportunities that others can't. And so it's just been learning what they did right. I think this is with every kid and their parents. It's like you really nailed
mm,
this, but then these other
yeah.
areas is where I need to take the baton and run.
Huh. So correct me if I'm wrong, but what you just described there is lifestyle inflation, right? And it's the idea that you make more, so you spend more. You make more, so you spend more. Lifestyle inflation. Uh, how do you avoid that? Kind of sounds like a dumb question, but it's not that dumb because the average person suffers from it. So how do you go about saying, okay, well, I used to make 35 and now I'm making 75. So how do I keep 20,000, right? Instead of keeping 2,000.
I mean, to me, it comes down to first understanding what the culture and the society is trying to do, what it's trying to sell you. And here in the US, it's definitely a consumer mindset. It's definitely encouraging debt. If you go on websites, you'll see, hey, you could pay $400 now or pay 8 payments times $50 and or whatever it is, and it would obviously be more money,
Yeah.
but everything here, there's just so many ways where it's designed to to give you instant gratification and then make it so that you can get what you want now, but your future self is paying for it. And I think when you understand, like, wow, okay, the whole system is just trying to get my money, trying to get me to sign for the 8 year car payments, the 8 year lease, all these things, it's understanding, okay, that's not healthy and that's not good and it's not normal. It's normal here, but just because other people are doing it doesn't mean that it's right for you, because not everyone here is happy. We have the
Mm,
50% divorce rate. We have a lot of people that are overweight. We have a lot of things that are not good, but it's normalized. And so once you
yeah.
realize, okay, I want a better situation, it's very easy to say, where do I start? And then go on podcasts, go on YouTube, go on Amazon, and look for the top financial books. And there's so many different thought leaders that break it down in different ways. And even if they have their different stances and perspectives, 85-90% of it's all the same. It's just the other 10% they may differ in terms of, well, I think you should invest a bit here, or I think you should pay off the highest interest rate debt first, and someone else will say you pay off the highest balance first, and both have arguments as to why that would make sense. But it's really easy if you've had enough pain to then look at yourself and say, I need to make a change. Where do I start?
Yeah.
And you can start with just better information.
Mm. Well, so that would be a good segue. Where slash what would be like? Where would you look for better information? Because uh, in a consumerism type place that is the U.S. Um, there's just so much noise on the internet, right? If you're trying to get out of debt, you're probably gonna get into more debt before you get out of debt. As far as you're gonna find the wrong information. People are gonna lead you to buy this course so that you can buy that course, and they can upsell you to this course. So by the time you actually find the good information, uh, where do you start to find the good information? For me, it was the seven baby steps by Dave Ramsey. Right, that was the first step for me. But I was lucky. I didn't run into a bunch of bad actors before I ran into that one. Right. So take it away.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because I got certified as a finance coach through Dave Ramsey's program, and I never
Mm.
really searched out financial gurus before because I was already good in that area. I felt like, hey, I know 80%, 90% of it. I know the pitfalls to avoid. And so I had to look on the internet, top financial gurus, top money coaches, and then you just find the ones. And obviously, there's going to be different genders, different races, different experience levels, different risk tolerances. Dave Ramsey has been around perhaps the longest of anyone. So he's very big here in the US. Not everyone agrees with his philosophies, but in terms of proven, I mean, I think he's had his radio show for
Mm.
over 30 years. It's something ridiculous. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he's a very conservative mind. He's a very conservative person and very much for the everyday person. But to get that seven baby steps, if you buy the book used on Amazon, it's probably like $6. You know what I mean?
Mm.
The book is
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
cheap. It's one credit on Audible. You can
Yeah.
probably search the book and then put PDF after it on Google and get the whole thing as a PDF for free that someone else leaked. So the information
Yeah.
is very easy. You don't have to pay $1,000 for a course because this is the start. You
Mm.
can listen to his podcast or his radio show for free. One of the best things I recommend to clients is I'll say, look, go on if you're a busy person, especially go on your podcast app, if it's Apple Podcast or Spotify or whatever, look up top finance podcast, top personal finance or money savings podcast. Look up five or six different ones, look through the different titles and download one per, and then based on the
Mm.
title that intrigues you, every day this week, listen to one of them. And then at the end of the week, you'll find ones that you like their voice, you like how they communicate, their message, and then listen to more of that. You found the person that can help guide you. And the ones that you don't really resonate with, it's okay, it's for someone else, but you at least experimented. And that one habit, doing that Monday through Friday on something that you need to grow in or learn in or change in your life, just like personal finance, well, after a month, that's 20, perhaps 20 hours, but at least 20 podcasts that have really changed your mindset without you having to do much work. Because as you know, when you're listening to podcasts, which I love about podcasts, you could be you're walking the dog, doing the dishes, cooking, driving. This is not here to take extra time. So don't say time, I don't have time to learn this. You're
Yeah.
walking, you're using, you have a lunch break at work. You have all these things where you could just listen to better information.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I listen to so many books, so many podcasts, and yeah, it doesn't. You said it really well. Like if you're driving to work and if you live in Los Angeles, you have like a 45-minute commute, stuck in traffic. and you're observing information at the same time. Uh, but there's a big difference between having the conceptual understanding of something, right? So let's say you've listened to all the best podcasts that there are out there. I feel like you as an individual end up being the biggest obstacle, right? Because then you have to take the next step, which is taking your conceptual understanding and then putting it into practice. So why do you see it being the biggest obstacle for people when it comes to the implementation of some of those things that they learn?
So we have so much information. I love that question because, as a finance coach, I'm like, why are you coming to me when I'm all I'm going to do is spit out the same information that you've had, that you have access to. And now with ChatGPT, it's very
Yeah,
quick. You can get like something really good within 2 seconds. But also,
yeah,
well, how come people that know they should lose weight, that have the right knowledge, don't lose the weight? Or why don't they do all these things? And there are two things that I really believe heavily in. And one was a survey, or it was a study that I heard on Jay Shetty's podcast about a year ago. And it was so remarkable that I had to jot it down. I'm not sure if you've heard it, but it was
mm,
on accountability. So I'm going to try, I'll
no,
probably butcher this, but it's such a fascinating study that it's worth
mm,
remembering. So they did a study. This was the American Society of Training and Development. They had all these
okay,
participants, and and it was based on what's the likelihood of achieving a goal. And they found that if you
mm,
have a goal and nothing else, you only have a 10% likelihood of achieving it. Okay, I have a goal, 10%. That number goes up to,
mm,
I'm hopefully I got the numbers right. I think 25% when you write it down. Goes up to 25% by writing down the
mm.
goal. When you put a timeline on the goal, it goes up to 40%. Then
Wow,
when you, let me see if I think I have that right. And then when you commit verbally to someone else that you're going to achieve this goal, it jumps to 65%. Okay, so now I wrote it down, I have a timeline, I've committed to someone, someone else knows that this is important to me, and I'm going to
yeah,
disappoint them, or I'm going to be less true to my word if I don't do it. Now there's something at stake, right? There's something at stake because
mm,
someone else will look at me different, will treat me different. And
yeah,
then the number jumps up to 95% when you have ongoing accountability appointments with the person that you committed to. So that's
mm,
pretty crazy when you're like, wow, from just having a goal 10% to 95%. But when you think about it, accountability, a lot of people can't hold themselves accountable. So it's
right,
accountability in some form, right? The people that are self-starters that do stay on course, whether it's their diet or their finances or anything else, they have that self-accountability. They know that I can't say something and look at myself in the mirror and take myself seriously if I don't live up to it, right? I have to,
mm,
one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Ed Milet, I remember him saying, confidence is made when you keep promises you make to yourself. So if you make a promise to
mm,
yourself
mm,
and you don't do it, you're losing confidence in your own word. So that's
right, right,
damaging. That's dangerous. So we need accountability one way or another. And if you can't be accountable to yourself, that's the reason why most people get personal trainers, finance coaches, whatever. It's not for some crazy information you can't find anywhere else. It's that someone is going to make you do the things you know you should be doing, but you haven't been
mm.
able to do on your own.
Wow, okay, that's quite insightful. So, do you know if there's a difference between that was just the second thing? So, one was the having a goal, and then the second one was writing that goal down. Do you know if there's a difference between typing the goal versus actually pen and paper and writing it?
I don't. I would
Okay,
guess
okay,
that if there is evidence, if there is, it would be handwriting would be better. Because
yeah, yeah,
I think that's a bit more personal and it's a bit more attached to you, but there's no data that I've found that suggests
yeah,
that. That's
yeah,
just me
right, right,
mentally, or maybe just
yeah,
romanticizing the idea of like I wrote it with my
yeah,
own
yeah,
handwriting and so now it's
yeah.
going to happen.
No, because I think I've heard that writing it down physically just takes it up a notch because it's like one, you have to find the pen. You have to find the paper. And then not only are you finding a paper, you're finding a paper that you actually want to write on. Oddly enough, that is something that we like. This is a paper. I can use a sticky note, but I can be like, well, I'm gonna forget the sticky note, or like, where am I gonna put the sticky note if I write on the sticky note? Oh, should I use my favorite goal keeping notebook? I mean, so there's so much thinking that goes into just finding the right paper. So by the time you write the goal down on a physical paper with a physical pen or pencil, it's the goal is further cemented into reality, I suppose. I'm just
Well, I would also argue that
yeah.
because we type so much now, that just
Mm,
writing anything manually, we might be uh, more attuned to it, or it might be more
yeah.
special. It might be more memorable as well if you write down the goal. Because I
Mm,
don't even remember if I don't sign something. I don't even remember the last time
mm,
I filled out a form manually or wrote something down. It's really just signatures is all I think of with using a pen.
yeah.
So maybe mentally, maybe when you look into quantum, I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but I love
Yeah.
quantum physics and
Mm,
quantum entanglement and all these crazy things. And maybe there's something a bit more magical about writing the goal down with the pen, what in terms of what it
mm,
energetically does out in the universe and
yeah.
what it's putting out there versus typing where
Typing.
it might not have that same force.
Yeah, yeah. I've signed so many documents digitally now. It's just insane. When I have to sign something physically, I'm like, where are we? Like 1802? Like I don't. It's just, but it probably carries a lot of weight to do to physically write something. Um, you mentioned this already, I think, but briefly, like what got you into this mission to of financial coaching? Like why is it important, and why now? Do you think?
I mean, I think it's always important in this country because it is something that the opposing message is just pushed so well. It's always
Mm,
buy now, pay later. It's always the neighbor has this. I mean, look, I live in LA. You've lived in LA before. You see the worst of the worst in a sense, where it's just keeping up with the Joneses to the max.
mm,
And I feel like
yeah.
so many people suffer because they're just playing the wrong game. They're in a race that they're never going to win, and the further I go into personal development, I've been on my own personal development journey every day, and it's funny because we talk about podcasts. 2014, I
Mm,
started listening to podcasts, and I made a little resolution every single day I'll listen to one, and that's been 9 years of some sort of
wow.
podcast. And I go, I'm so much more aware of what makes me happy, what life is about, what brings me fulfillment, and yet I see so many people in jobs they hate to pay for cars and houses and toys to impress their friends, and they go home and they're miserable and they don't have a great relationship with their spouse. Money is the number two reason for divorces or for conflict in a relationship behind infidelity. And I go, there's so many things that go wrong when you just don't have this knowledge and this wisdom around money and what it means and how to use it in a way that best serves you and create and gets you on that path to fulfillment, because some people want to make millions of dollars, but most people, they would be happy with just 150,000, 200,000, something where in their city they can go out to dinner, they could drive a fine car, they could have a nice house, they could send their kids to a quality school for education, all that kind of stuff. And they just want time, they want to have their health, they want these things. And yet we're just pushed such a message of it has to be all about this, that a lot of people try that, they get burnt out, they get overweight, they get divorced, they get miserable, depressed, and then they just have to learn it later down the road. And so, I mean, the way I look at it is just financial well-being and wisdom around money and what it means to you and how to use it right. That's one piece of the puzzle with everything else: mental health, physical health, emotional intelligence, relational health, all the other things. It's one spoke in the wheel. But the way I found it was just organic. I had good
Mm.
training from my parents in terms of living below my means, and then I had people in my life that were living far beyond theirs, and I knew it was a disservice to not try to help them at least make better use of their money. And yeah, that's basically it.
Mm. Well, so you just mentioned like being wise with your money. So some people might hear that and they thinking, man, I don't know anything about interest rates. I start puking in every time that I have to like budget. I don't like that whole budgeting and money idea and just having to write everything down, keeping track of this, keeping track of that, APRs and returns and ROIs and I don't want to like that's a lot of stuff. That's why we have accountants and X, Y, and Z for. But then at the same time, I think this is the point that you're trying to make, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like lifestyle has a huge plays a huge role in this. It is a lot less of a math problem as we think, and more so of a lifestyle. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I would say people get it's just like physical health. People think, "Oh, I don't want to go so deep into calories and counting every carb and all that stuff." And you don't have to go that far down. You just need to know the 80%. If you're familiar with Pareto's law, it's 20% of 20% yields 80%, or 20% of effort yields 80% of results. So if you know the 20%, which are just the basics of pay off your credit card or don't have a credit card, because the interest rate on a credit card is going to be more than 99% of your investments. So you don't want to be investing before you pay off your credit card, because you're not going to be making 20% on your investments. So if you just know the 20%, you're going to yield the 80% of results. And so it never has to be too technical. It just needs to be simple math, which is I bring home $5,000 every, let's say, 2 weeks, and now I need to spend less than $5,000 every 2 weeks. And I want to make sure that 10% or so goes towards investing. So let's remove 500. So $4,500, I could do whatever I want with. I mean, you could literally say
Mm-hmm.
that's my budget. If I want to spend 3,500 of the 4,500 just on my house, great. You have $1,000 left for everything else, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And but like when we had cash, it's like if you only had money. And I know Dave Ramsey's big on this. If you only had cash, this becomes very easy because it just disappears. Oh, I
Right,
have
right.
$5,000 in $100 bills. Five of them go towards this investing, and now this is what I got left for the rest of the week or the rest of the month, whatever it is. And so I think because of credit cards, because of not seeing the money leave, not feeling the pain of it leaving, that's where it gets
Yeah.
confusing. But the three principles that I tell everyone to start with is just look, eliminate waste. We all have waste. These are the subscriptions we don't use. These are parking tickets. This is the 40% of food that's wasted in America. You know, just if you eliminate waste, that's one thing that's going to help, right? And then if you're losing weight, that's like just stop drinking soda. Just stop drinking
Mm.
soda, and you're going to see a great results just from that. The second thing is spend with attention and intention, which just means
Mm.
think of, do I really need this? Does this help propel me towards my goal? And when you learn things like compound interest, when you see, oh my God, I could put $100 in this investment, and over 20, 30 years, it balloons up to this massive amount. When you know things like that, you can actually approach purchasing decisions with a bit more uh, intention and attention, because you're like, if I don't
Yeah.
buy this $300 jacket, well, that $300 just invested is going to be $32,000 in 20 years. And so when you just know that, you're like, oh man, I'd rather save. I would rather invest. I'd rather not get this. But honestly, yeah, it's
Mm.
and the third one was just invest heavily. So eliminate waste, intention, and then invest heavily. And with that, you're going to see 80% of the results with that 20% of effort.
Mm. Okay. Barely any math involved at all. That's good. That's good.
I, I mean, I feel like the principles and the mindset have to come before the math, because the math is only backing up what is going on in the mind in terms of what do I calculate and why. And so just going,
Yeah.
if you Google interest rate or compound interest calculator, doesn't matter which one you pull up, you
Mm,
throw in some numbers. Usually it's just how much are you starting with, investing at this, put in 9 or 10% as the return, and you'll see what that number climbs to. That should get you very excited. That excited me. I was like,
yeah.
this is the cheat code. I think Einstein said
Hmm.
a compound interest is the sixth wonder of the world, or the
Sixth
seventh
wonder of
wonder,
the world. Yeah.
sixth wonder. Yeah, I'm like, well, that's,
Yeah.
if Einstein is talking so highly of compound interest, I think we should know that because the credit card companies know that. Credit card companies are like, compound interest is the sixth wonder of the world. We're making all this money, so let's use it for us instead of it happening against us. But I mean, that's the kind
Mm,
of stuff where I go, you don't have to know the math, but you should be very excited about a principle like that to the point where you'll want to make better purchasing decisions because you see what you're giving up. You see that opportunity cost of not investing, of buying the $500 jacket or going on the, buying the toy, the newest iPhone instead of waiting for the next year's version. And then you see,
yeah.
wow, that's how much it would be making. So let me think about it.
Mm. Nah, that's really good. That's good insight. And just to kind of like emphasize on that, well, not emphasize, but like one of the things that told myself at the early stages was, at least when it came to credit cards, because I had messed up big time. Surprise. And so I had come up with a rule that is like, if I if I'm paying interest on a credit card, I've done something wrong. I have to change something. So if what I spend, and at the end of the month, if I'm paying off the credit card, if under interest it says zero, then I'm doing something right. Right. So I gotta,
Mm.
as long as I'm not paying any interest, okay, at least I'm spending. I'm not paying more just to be able to afford something. Right. So
Right.
it's like, if I want these headphones so bad, the credit card company says, okay, hey, it costs $250. You can have it now for $252. $2 of interest. I mean, I'm just doing some random math here. So the idea at the beginning for me was like, okay, let's just assume that we are as stupid as we have been with money, because we are in debt, so we've been stupid. Uh, with that stupidity taken into account, can we avoid to pay interest? I think so. So as long as we're not paying any interest, we are doing something right. And then from there, of course, stop using credit cards, and or start to invest, or don't buy something that you really don't need, or just have that, have a good reason for buying the things that you're buying, aka, like you said, live below your means. Um,
If
yeah.
I may add one more thing to that, when I think of having a credit card balance, the way
Hmm.
I tell clients, I'm like, this is not your money. You have access to this money that your future self will have to pay more for. Are you okay with
Hmm.
2024 Moses paying for that vacation that you're having today? Because he's going to have to pay more money then because of something you're enjoying today. And I
Right.
want to always help my future self. And I think that's why it goes along with personal development, health, all that stuff. Is I want 2024 Brad to be in a better situation than 2023 Brad. And that's why the delayed gratification, or just the, I don't have the money, so when I have the money, I will buy it. But if I can't pay it off in full, then I don't have enough money. It's just that's how it works. I wouldn't want to screw over 2024 Brad with something that 2023 Brad is doing out of immaturity.
Yeah, yeah, that is. Well, so then, what are you seeing being one of the things that people are hesitant to try when it comes to changing their relationship with their finances?
I don't know if it's hesitant. I think it's just one of those
Mm,
things where, like, look, we've been hearing, oh, the economy's going to crash, and now we're hearing, oh, summer 2024. We've heard that stuff for a long time. I feel it's the
yeah.
same thing with anything else. When the pain is not great enough, people don't really take the action, right? You're
Yeah,
60
yeah.
pounds overweight, but the doctor hasn't told you that you're 6 months away from a heart attack. When that reality check hits, or when you've had a stroke and you're in the hospital and the doctor says you're lucky you didn't die, you need to change everything now. When that happens, change is made. But I think it really boils down to people that don't take action just don't have enough pain. And so
Mm,
they needed to really have that, okay, now it's $50,000 in credit card debt. Something registers. Now this is when we're in crisis mode and I
yeah.
got to take massive action in the opposite direction. But
Mm,
up until then, or maybe it's I got laid off and I was spending and spending, and I just assumed that my job would always be there. I assumed I'd get that promotion. I assumed my spouse would have heard her really good job or his really good job, and it would take care of things. And then that's when change happens, when it's like, oh, it's basically too late, or hopefully you experience enough pain before it's too late. But I don't think there's
yeah.
anything that stops people except they're just comfortable, or they're
Mm,
mildly uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable
yeah.
enough.
I think the way that Dave Ramsey puts it is you have to be sick and tired of being sick and
Mm.
tired.
They're
And
not sick and
or
tired.
is it yeah, yeah. But I think it's the great Alexander Solzhenitsyn, I believe. Might be misquoting the person, but they said you have to have like a strong enough why will withstand anyhow. So if you
Mhm.
have a strong enough reason, it doesn't matter what you need to supersede that. You'll do it. You have a strong enough reason to do it, and yeah, you're gonna do it. It's crazy. It's almost been an hour already since we've been at this. Yeah. Are there any topics, not topics, but some points that I haven't touched on that they would like to leave the audience with?
I actually, that last point, I'd like to add something to it. And so
Yeah.
right now I have a coaching business that combines financial transformation with physical transformation. And my partner, who's a top LA health coach, and he was an international model, he does more of the physical health side. And there was one guy on Instagram who had gone through a pretty drastic physical transformation. He put on a lot of muscle, he lost a lot of fat, and I said, "Hey, what kept you going, and what inspired you to start, and how do you stay on track? Because that, losing weight and getting in shape is just as difficult as cutting down on your spending and paying off debt. It's very similar." And he said,
Mhm.
"I have a 6-year-old son, and I'll tell you, the way he looks at me is different. And in my opinion, a father's nightmare is when his son does not look up to his dad." And I said, man,
Mm.
what a why, what a strong why to say, not only am I going to be loving to my kids, but I want to be the hero. I want to be the one where my son, my daughter isn't forced to look up to Dave Ramsey or to someone else,
Mm.
because I am the example with my finances, with my career, with my health, with my relationships, with my spirituality. Like
Yeah.
that's a pretty sweet why to say, hey, you don't have to look up to any celebrity, any entrepreneur, any coach, anything like that, because I'm leading by example. And so if you're a parent out there, just think about that. I hope that's enough of a why for you to say, hey, I want to be the hero to my son, to my daughter, to my family, because I'm capable of it and they deserve that.
And so, if people wanna follow you or like keep up with the shenanigans or figure out what it is that you're doing and or learn more about you, where can they go?
Sure. So empowermen.co on Instagram is the best place to see what we're doing in terms of our physical and financial transformation. It is for men only right now because we're two guys, and we want it to be a safe space for men as they go through their transformation. And then maybe one day we'll have a female version and get some women to run that. But you could also find my shenanigans from that Instagram on Empower Men. So it's EMPOWERMEN, empowermen.co on Instagram, and then the same thing on the website. But the Instagram is where you'll see some of the clients and some of the things we're doing. And if you're a man out there and you're looking to really transform your health or your finances, or ideally both, we'd love to help you and get you going.
Brad, thank you so much for coming to the Moses Kabandana Podcast. I'm gonna hit stop here in a second, but then let's keep chatting for another 5 minutes or so and ask some more questions. But thank you so much for coming to the Moses Kabandana Podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. This has been fun. Thanks.
It's just yeah.